All right, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the functional medicine. Function is at the root of all problems because when we have a problem, something, it doesn't function right. Now, functional medicine focuses on the root causes of disease based on interactions between the environment and the gastrointestinal, endocrine, and immune systems to develop individualized treatment plans. Individualized, just like in hypnosis. Now, functional medicine was created by Jeffrey Bland. He founded the Institute of Functional Medicine, IFM, in the early 1990. And coincidentally, that's when psychology began in Romania as a branch of medicine, practicing medicine. On the other hand, William James is the father of functional psychology and states that emotion is the mind's perception of physiological conditions that result from some sort of stimulus. And William James, one of my mentors, he is focused on the mental processes and how the mental processes work, and focus on helping organisms adapt to their environment. When we are adapted, we are happy and successful, and we have everything we want when we are adapted. He also focuses on the purpose of behavior process, introspection, observation, and evolution. When it comes to an emotion, William James states that an emotion is a term of sequence of events that start with the occurrence of an arousing stimuli, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, and it ends up with a feeling, whether it's conscious or unconscious, but mostly conscious experience. Now, the same sequence of events we have in functional medicine. Well, first we have it in the biology before we have it in the emotions. And there's a lot of sequence of events that disrupt or enhance the function of the gastrointestinal, endocrine, and immune system. Now, these are the most complex systems in the human body. You can't do a transplant on the gastrointestinal, endocrine, and immune system. So they're complex. On the other hand, gastrointestinal, well, lately, the enteric nervous system makes up the gastrointestinal system, and the enteric nervous system works together with the parasympathetic, sympathetic, which forms what is now known the autonomic nervous system, which pretty much is the autopilot. And when it comes to behavior, the autopilot is where the auto habits reside. Now, when it comes to biology, the autopilot is very important. And when we go to the doctor, we go to the doctor because the biological autopilot is not working right. In hypnosis, on the other hand, as we work on the root cause of your bad auto habits, which are made possible by your emotions and thoughts for the purpose of bringing you to balance, so does functional medicine. In functional medicine, works a little different, and in functional medicine, you might hear things talked about adrenal fatigue as opposed to adrenal disease, thyroid imbalance as opposed to thyroid disease, a lot of non-autoimmune neuromuscular disorder or non-autoimmune neurological disorder, especially of the enteric system, which is the gastrointestinal. Because the intestinal motility requires neuromuscular activity, which is called peristalsis. And some major figure in the functional medicine proposed that 25% of people in the United States have heavy metal poisoning and they need to undergo detoxification. And I know a lot of people that went bunkers with all kinds of detox. And I would like to caution everybody before you engage and you go about detoxing your, I'm not going to say the organs because I don't want to encourage you to do that. It's better to consult a doctor because detoxification is not as simple as you think. It's not like taking a shower and then you clean yourself out. It's a very complex mechanism. And Dr. Catalina Grisha, she's a medical doctor. She's going to enlighten us with the benefits of addressing and working with the functions of the biological body and some of the most fascinating aspects of functional medicine. Catalina?
Thank you for having me here. So, yes, I'm very passionate about functional medicine, especially after being in internal medicine for 25 years, because I love prevention. And going to the root of the problem, we can fix things that are off already or prevent, disease from occurring. It's that crossroad, like you go towards illness or you go towards health. And it's a road that starts with genetics. And we do nutrigenetic studies involving even the brain function and talking about hypnosis, right? So many people have depression and anxiety and, or addictions, right? And with the DNA Mind, you can really see exactly what enzymes are not working properly, how much inflammation you have, and figure out what the nutritional changes you need to make to improve those. And for parents, like teenagers, I would say, or even smaller children, it's so important to know this. Because parents play such an important role, right, in how their kids develop. And we should take advantage of the science these days because our parents for sure didn't have these. And many children had wounds, right, were wounded, so to speak, right, in childhood. And some marks were left on their life forever. Well, now we can figure out from the beginning exactly how to behave with our children and make sure that they have the best, future possible. And definitely talking about the GI system, the gastrointestinal system. Oh yes, there's so many bacteria that are there and they can, of course, be beneficial, but they can also be opportunistic that definitely can cause infections. And there is now well-recognized connection between the gastrointestinal system, the bacteria, and the brain, right? With certain bacteria get more depression, so definitely very important aspect. The gastrointestinal system in functional medicine is viewed as the center. Because if you don't absorb things well, then you're not going to have the nutrients. If you lose things, you're not going to have the nutrients. If you don't eliminate toxins, you are going to, you're not going to feel your best, that's for sure, and have deleterious effects. And if you have, of course, infections, then that can totally ruin. And also in terms of weight problems, right? So many people have difficulty losing weight because of certain bacteria in the gut again. So it's it's fascinating to me.
Indeed, it's fascinating. As just as literally as probiotics affect your mood, probiotics are also known to affect your neuromuscular transmission. So I've been reading a lot about neuromuscular disorders lately, and I'm fascinating of how this work. And if you think about just a probiotic that affects your muscle strength, it's ridiculous, but it's very important. And I remember working with a functional doctor many years ago, and specialized in immunology, and he mentioned that if the gut, otherwise known as the gastrointestinal system, would have a heart, it would be an organism of its own. Now that's a big deal. I mean, just take the gastrointestinal system, put a heart to it, and it will be an organism. Well, it's not going to have hands and legs to walk on it, but it means that it's just so complex. And there is an old saying, especially in Romanian, then you get to a man's heart through his stomach. Well, what we have, it's very important to keep healthy, to have good nutrition, because mens sana in corpore sana. So yes, and even when I work with hypnosis people, I encourage them. I ask them about their eating habits, and I ask about their medical condition, and sometimes I am able to direct them to a medical doctor if there are no improvements as I would like to see up to a point. I'm able to direct them to a doctor or send them to the primary doctor and ask them for certain tests to have done to see, is there something that doesn't function right? Like for women, especially the thyroid, it's so easily gets out of function. And it doesn't have to be clinical. It can be subclinical and still cause a lot of issue and a lot of mood disorder, a lot of emotions, and a lot of thoughts, because without balanced hormonal exchange in the body, the thinking changes, the emotion changes, how we feel, our state changes. So as soon as we go about restoring this balance, and we cannot stress enough the importance of what we insert in our gastrointestinal system. So tell us a little bit more about the DNA aspect to it, because it's a fascinating subject.
Absolutely. When we do the DNA health for patients, I feel like I tell them, you have the blueprint. This is what you know now what to do for the rest of your life to get the best outcome, right? And what we look at is nutrigenetics. So we look at the genes that encode enzymes that are involved in cholesterol metabolism and sugar metabolism, vitamins metabolism. There's so many people that have gluten intolerance and lactose intolerance genes. So, yep, they may not be even symptomatic currently, but if they're exposed, repeatedly to the same, item, they will develop, issues. And also, how we deal with oxidative stress, how we get rid of free radicals, how our liver detoxifies, toxins. And I find it so important because some things are good for, we know that certain things we say, oh, it's good for everybody. Everybody should be eating this or that. Like green tea, for example. And when you do your nutrigenetics and you see certain enzymes that are not functioning properly, these are actually further inhibited by green tea, for example. So, and it totally changes how you see things and what you do for those people, because again, even depression can get worse because they drink green tea a lot, literally, So once you know exactly how your body functions, and genetically, it's black on white. It's not to say that, I think I'm predisposed to this, or I think I should not be eating this, or I have a weight issue, whatever that means, right? Or my parents have it, and all of that. This way, for sure exactly what's there, and you know what to avoid, foods wise, and if you need to clean and get rid of all the toxic substances in the house, even like cleaners and personal use creams, lotions, you name it, because so many things these days, right, contain all these chemicals and endocrine disruptors, plastic bottles, plastic containers. And if a person can actually literally miss certain liver enzymes because they don't have the genes for them. And if one of those people, finds out that they have this problem and they don't get rid of toxic substances, well, yeah, there's predisposition for cancer and a whole slew of, problems. But this way they find out, and you can literally change destiny. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I love nutrigenetics. And with DNA Mind, the same thing. You find out literally from, especially for children, you find out from the beginning if they have maybe an addictive personality, and you're very careful how to raise them and what to introduce them to, or they may be very sensitive to criticism. So you change your attitudes, right? You don't criticize them, or you tend to be more supportive, right? Or more praising the process and all that, with a child like this. So, and you can prevent, literally, bad outcomes, right? There's so many. It's so sad that so many, young people commit suicide, and this should not be happening. If you knew that your kid is predisposed to depression or anxiety, or again, doesn't cope very well with stress, you are going to pay attention and put effort into, doing the right thing so that you don't push them over the edge. So yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yes, you're right. It is very important, and knowledge is power. And when we have knowledge, we have the power to change what influences us. And I remember many, many years ago when I kept going to the doctors and they couldn't find what was going on with me. Eventually, I found out that I have the genes for the gluten intolerance, for celiac disease. So as soon as I found out, I stopped eating gluten. Now, that's many years ago. It was a bit harder and more difficult back then to be gluten-free. Nowadays, there's a lot of products that are gluten-free. But I was oriented towards making sure I eat what's right for my body and not substituting gluten for something. Well, if I can eat bread, let's just have gluten-free bread. No, go without grains for a while up until the gut heals, because what happens in celiac disease, all of the villi that are inside the intestines that have moved the food, and that helps the absorption of the food, when they are damaged, then you don't absorb nutrients, and you can eat all the good nutrients you want, you don't absorb them, and then you end up sick. So I know when I change my diet, in addition to going gluten-free, I went many other free, including dairy-free and soy-free and other free. And shortly after that, I started to get so many compliments on the quality of my skin, to which I didn't do anything different about my skin. And even you mentioned lotions, and I started using all natural ingredients, and I wouldn't pay a lot of money for brand names lotions. I would use vitamin E with essential oils, and I still make my own concoction of vitamin E that I use on my skin. But it made such an impact, because as I was eating gluten, and it wasn't for my biology. It's it's good for other people, but for my biology wasn't good. I could see how the thinking processes. I mean, you just get tired, and when you don't feel good, you don't think properly. Because if we don't feel good biologically, we can focus properly. So it made a big difference. So yeah, so let's find out. Okay, you're
sorry. Press the wrong button. Yeah. But with this mask, you have all these imprints on your face. This is crazy. With them wearing mask all day long. But yeah, absolutely. Finding out exactly what's going on in your body is so important, and it's the best objective way to find out, a treatment and a resolution, not just putting band-aids, taking a medication, but fixing the problem. Actually, that's why going to the root of the problem and trying to get rid of diabetes and high cholesterol and all these metabolic illnesses, it's so much better than just, okay, take a medication and, control it. No, we don't need to control it only, we need to fix it.
Yes, we need to go to the root and see which mechanism is not working right, and then aid that mechanism, because there are how many enzymes. Only magnesium takes the place of about 720 enzymes. On the article I read how many years ago, so who knows how many more enzymes have been added to the role of magnesium in the body. So it's what I keep on saying, what we put inside and on us, it will affect us. It will affect us. And we all want to be happy. We all want to feel good. We don't want to keep going to doctors. I mean, let's go entertain with the doctors. Let's go have dinners with doctors, not just, go see them to the office, but doctors are needed. And a lot of people, don't even know that if they adjust their diet and if they eat a little healthier and maybe slower, maybe chew your food a little longer because you swallow, even that will activate more enzymes by the power of the saliva. So a lot of people, well, we don't have time lately. We're just so bombarded with so many things to do. So I'm happy that you're here to help us educate people that are willing to do the right thing for their body, but just don't know how to go about it or where to start.
Absolutely. And I would encourage everybody to just, put in the comments what subject they would want us to address and what problems. And not that there will be any doctor-patient relationship here, but if they want to talk about something, they want more, more functional medicine perspective on, a certain problem, would be happy to do it in the future episodes.
Yes. Education. I mean, we're not here to give medical advice. For medical advice and for consultation, no. You see us individually. You see Dr. Grisha individually. You see me individually, one-on-one. But education, knowledge is power, and when you have the power to change that which affects you, you're a happy human being. You're a happy, healthy human being. We're all but a battery, and we are going to run out of biology at some point, and we are aging, and aging is not easy on a body, but we don't have to wait up until we're aging and hurting to take care of things. Just like you mentioned earlier about children. It's the way we grew up, the way me and you grew up, and nowadays the millennial children and post-millennial children, it's such a different consciousness and such a different pool of knowledge that they have access to, that we don't have time to keep up with their pool of knowledge and how that influences them. because we didn't grow up with as many electronics. And if you spend too much time on electronics, it affects your brain waves. And when it affects your brain waves, it affects your neurotransmitters and affects neurotransmitters is going to affect how you feel, your thoughts, your emotions, your capacity to pay attention, your capacity to focus. And there's so much buzz about attention deficit. Well, I don't know how much attention deficit as there is an overwhelm of technology and overwhelm of notifications, and try to have a kid nowadays without their cell phone. You can't. The smartphone has become not just theirs, but our identity. Whatever you log in, they have to verify it through the cell phone. And I'm thinking, what if I travel and I don't have service? So it's complex, but all of this complexity can be simplified. Again, knowledge is power. So let's get that knowledge.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. So we'll do more of this because the knowledge is important, and we'll wait for people's comments. Sometimes people send comments in private. They are a bit shy to put a comment in the live, which is okay. Yeah. And then we can take that and address them next time. So thank you for being here. And
welcome.
Yes, and we can find you on Facebook, and also we can find you in Oak Park at Dacia Medical, and you can find me on Facebook. And I'm in Niles. And yes, we look forward to your questions so we can educate you a little bit, because once we know the importance of certain mechanism, then we can do something about it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, wherever you are, everyone, and we'll see you next time.